Hi, everyone. Let's talk about sex. I'm Dr. Laura Prescott, the Director of Clinical Training and Associate Professor for the Chicago School of Los Angeles Clinical PsyD program. Today, we're going to talk about fun with fetishes. So, a lot of people think about fetishes, but they're actually not realizing that fetishes fall under a broader class of phenomena called paraphilias. So a paraphilia is sexual arousal to any atypical situation, object, or target. And so sometimes when people talk about what they think is a fetish, it's actually a paraphilia. Fetishes are one category of paraphilia. So a fetish, think of it as focusing on that objects piece of paraphilias. So a fetish is when you have gratification towards anything that is either an object or a body part that's not typically associated with sexual arousal. So for example, a lot of people hear about different body parts, and that's actually called partialism, by the way. If you have an attraction to a non-sexual body part, so for example, I really love those elbows, they're so sexy. Well, that's partialism. And examples of objects, of course, can include all kinds of things: shoes, stockings, balloons. We'll talk a lot more about these in a bit. So with fetishes, and also called fetishism, you have to understand that a lot of times this is perfectly normal, and it doesn't become a clinical disorder until and unless it is either A, causing clinically significant distress, or B, it causes a severe impairment in functioning. So some people, it rises to the level of fetishism and having to be diagnosed and having to have treatment, but for a good chunk of people, it's just good, clean fun. So a lot of experts disagree on the cause of how does a fetish even form. A lot of experts, though, think that classical conditioning is somehow involved. So, for example, if you are having sex with somebody and they're wearing spiky red high heel shoes and you pair that stimulus with sexual arousal, eventually, if you just have the high heeled shoes there, those red spiky high heeled shoes, you don't even need the person or the sex to be around. You just have that stimulus and you're already aroused just from the shoes. So by pairing a stimulus and a response, in this case the response of sexual arousal, if you pair that enough times, you can just look at the shoes and automatically be like, oh, I'm aroused. So that's how a lot of people think fetishes develop, although there is no true consensus. There isn't 100% agreement on it. And with regards to fetishes, people are probably thinking, oh, what are some common ones? What are some weird ones? So the most common ones tend to be either with regards to body parts or objects associated with body parts. And usually those are objects associated with things like the butt or legs or feet. So for instance, the most common objects tend to be things like stockings or shoes or underpants. And the most common body part is feet. Those are the most common in terms of body part. And also with regards to objects, in addition to the typical stockings or shoes or undergarments, a lot of people like things like leather or rubber. In fact, taking rubber to another degree, there are groups of people who really enjoy balloons. And they get off on balloons, and some people really like the sound of popping balloons, and some are like, no, don't pop my balloons, I just want to hang out with them. That community, by the way, they're called looners, if you're interested in the balloon fetish people. Moving along a little bit more broadly, because I know a lot of people think about paraphilias in general when they think about fetishes. So let's talk about some general paraphilias that people might be more familiar with. So some of you or many of you may have heard of urophilia, which is, of course, arousal to urine play, or coprophilia, which is arousal to feces, fecal play. And, of course, some people may have heard of necrophilia, and that is, of course, corpses, people who really like having sex with corpses. So some atypical ones that you may not have heard of, and there's a gazillion of them out there, but I think I'll just highlight a couple for fun. So one is stygiophilia. So if you think of like Stygian, like the river Styx, it's when you're aroused to hellfire or damnation. Another interesting one that I found was climacophilia, which is arousal to falling downstairs. Yes, I thought that one was pretty interesting myself. And there's a ton of these, and it's actually really fun to look up online because if you can think of a thing or a situation, there's probably somebody who's attracted to it and gets aroused to it. So have a look on Google sometime if you dare and go down that rabbit hole because it's very entertaining and educational. And I always like to read about sex. So for me, it's fun. And hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, it's fun for you too. Thanks as always for tuning in. Again, I'm Dr. Laura Prescott for the Chicago School of Los Angeles.